Special K, ketamine, Kit Kat. What is it? What are the effects? How is it used? Everything you need to know. Let's go. Ruggeri, the Soberdog, coming at you. Ketamine. We're going to get into everything you need to know about it. Ketamine's hit a huge resurgence lately. We've been hearing a lot about it in the news, in the media. We're going to talk all about everything you need to know, details you want to hear. Remember, these videos are for entertainment, informational, educational purposes only. I am not a medical professional. Please consult with a doctor or medical professional about any of your own situations with medications or substances. So ketamine, let's get into it. Ketamine was developed in the 1960s by a guy who was a chemistry professor at Wayne State University. His name was Kelvin L. Stevens. Now, Kelvin was also a consultant for a pharmaceutical company called Park Davis. This is complete speculation on my part, but I'm just going to take a wild guess and assume that the pharmaceutical company, he shared it with them and also with the university, and the pharmaceutical company said, we'll give you a bunch of money, you know. So he develops this. It was supposed to be a better anesthetic than PCP. Phenylcyclidine, PCP was the anesthetic used before, or a anesthetic used. They want to develop a better one. It was tested on animals and human prisoners first, and it showed promising results. Ketamine was shown to produce a fast-acting anesthetic. Dissociative anesthesia is what they coined the phrase as. The FDA approved it in the 1970s, and ketamine was first given to Vietnam soldiers. So how is ketamine used and what are the effects? Ketamine is a dissociative anesthetic that has some hallucinogenic effects. Now, ketamine is used to induce general anesthesia. If you're going to go have a surgery, there's a good chance they're going to give you ketamine prior. Ketamine is also given for pain in lower doses. Ketamine can also be given to uncooperative patients. Like a lot of times they give it to children. I actually was just on the phone with a buddy the other day whose, 2-year-old child was in the hospital, had an emergency procedure, and they gave her ketamine. Calms them down so that they could do what they got to do. And this was after hours of other tests and stuff. Ketamine's also been approved for certain epileptic situations. And more recently, ketamine has been approved for the treatment of depression and anxiety, specifically treatment-resistant depression, which means people who've gone through multiple other things to treat their depression, it hasn't helped, and ketamine can be like a final resort after they've tried other things. All right, the big question, what are the effects of ketamine? I've done ketamine a bunch of times, both black market, party, drug use, and also in a clinical setting, the professional way with a doctor and a therapist. So I have a good amount of experience with ketamine. I'm going to tell you all about what it felt like for me in the next video. I'm going to break down my whole experience, but I'm going to give you some of it here. One of the big things you hear about the effects of ketamine is the K-hole. The best way I'd be able to describe a K-hole is if you ever seen a movie or read a book where they talk about somebody's near-death experience where they're like above their body. A lot of times you hear it with an operation. They're like, I felt above my body looking down on the operation. That's what a K-hole is like to me. You feel disconnected from your body, and a lot of times you're stuck. Like you can't move a muscle, you can't talk, and sometimes like you could literally see yourself. It's like looking in a mirror, but you can't move. That's what higher doses, getting stuck in a K-hole. It's a dissociative anesthetic is what it's labeled as, because it really, in a weird way, like disconnects you from yourself. The effects, drowsiness, double vision, confusion, dizziness, blurred vision. Two of the big ones are increased blood pressure and increased heart rate. The reason that's big is it does like jump your blood pressure for the first 20 minutes. So people taking meds and have high blood pressure got to be careful. And then the monster effect we all hear about is hallucinations, distorts perception of sight, sound, time, that feeling of disconnectedness. It really is a wild feeling. It can be similar in that way to anyone who's done psychedelics like LSD or mushrooms. You definitely get that time distortion and some of the hallucinations very similar to those drugs with ketamine. Anyone who's done those, you could be sitting there and your buddy's like, hey man, it's 3 o'clock, and you're like, holy shit, it's felt like 5 minutes and 3 hours have went by, or vice versa. you could be like, damn, man, it felt like it's been like 8 hours, hasn't it? And it's like, no, man, like 20 minutes has gone by. So it could really affect your perception of reality and time. I've done ketamine at like 100 milligrams and like 500 plus, and I could definitely say there's a massive difference, like any substance for sure, but less than 100 can be like pain relief, still walking around. Over like 400 can be like out of body experience. So it can definitely range, and also depends on what they mix it with and also route of administration. That leads us into onset and duration. Ketamine, like any other substance, how quickly it kicks in is going to depend on how you use it, but it does tend to kick in a little bit quicker than other substances. Depends on how you do it. What does it look like? Ketamine usually comes in a clear liquid or a white powder, a little bit off-white powder. Can have a little grayish or a little tannish color to it, little bit, but sometimes that can be they mixed it, but typically that's how it comes. How do people take it? In a medical setting, you're gonna probably get an injection, or it can be a subcutaneous under the tongue. In the black market setting, it's usually sold in baggies or vials between 100 and 200 milligram hits. People snort it, the powder. People put it under their tongue. People sprinkle it on a joint or a cigarette and smoke it. Like any other drug, pretty much could be taken many ways. Swallowing it is a little different, because when you swallow it, it actually turns into something different in your stomach. I don't want to get too into this because I don't know the exact details, but I do know that, like some other substances, snorting ketamine turns into, just for example, A-ketamine in your brain. Swallowing it turns into B-ketamine in your stomach, and it's a little bit different effects. Again, A-ketamine and B-ketamine, I just made that up, but for example purposes. But that's how people take it on the street. What are the street names of ketamine? Special K, Cat, Trank, Trank. Now, Trank can be another drug too. We're hearing a lot with the opioid epidemic, but ketamine is also called Trank. Jet K, Kit Kat, Super K, Vitamin K, Horse Trank, Super Acid, Green Tea, Cat. Probably the most common one of those is Special K. You hear that often and referred to ketamine. So why do we hear so much about ketamine? One of the main reasons we're hearing so much about it lately is ketamine from the 60s until like 2015 was basically an anesthetic. It's big in veterinary too. They use it a lot for animals. Now, there was like a black market in it in the late 90s. Definitely got popular for rave scenes and stuff, but not huge. Then in 2015, there was this resurgence as ketamine can help people with depression. So it goes through the FDA trial again, gets approved, and there's a spray, a ketamine spray, and also it's approved to treat depression and anxiety. So all these clinics start popping up, coinciding with the pandemic, where telemedicine is big, where you can get a prescription right over the computer. All these things combined, and ketamine hit a real big resurgence in 2019, 2020, 2021, and so on all the way to now. To the point where I'm in Rochester, New York, there's places I can go tomorrow and sit down and get a ketamine infusion if I wanted to. You could just walk in and sit at a table and get a ketamine infusion for depression. And there's a lot of speculation on some of the moral questions around these clinics. Like anything where there's a quick boom, money to be made, there's shady characters popping up, and ketamine can be addictive, which leads into the last question: is ketamine dangerous? Like any other substance, there's pros and cons, and you got to be careful with anything. In a medical setting, I wouldn't say you have anything to worry about. Don't be scared if the doctor says they're going to give it to you as an anesthetic. No more than anything else, you have anything to worry about. On the street, it's definitely not the most dangerous substance. Can it cause overdose? Absolutely. Can it react with other meds and kind of boost the effects? Absolutely. Can it be addicting? Yeah. That's where it differs a little bit from LSD and mushrooms and other classic hallucinogenics or hallucinogens. Ketamine is definitely more addictive than mushrooms or LSD, which have pretty much been shown to be almost completely non-addictive. You got to be careful. That's where Matthew Perry went for depression and, started using it, and he's got a past with addiction. So for people that have had a past with addiction, they definitely should be careful, or anybody, because it can be an addictive substance. That is basically the answer. If it's dangerous, it can be. It's not the most dangerous thing. It's not, but you got to be careful. And nowadays things are mixed with a lot of other substances. But it can definitely help people too, and is used in medical settings and veterinary settings daily, helping people. You could say that about any med, pretty much. What was my experience doing both 100 milligrams of ketamine and 500 plus? I'm gonna tell you guys everything about it, floating outside the body, crazy experiences in the next video. Make sure you check it out, and appreciate everyone. Like and subscribe, help Soberdogs, share the content. All right, see ya.